welcome back, beautiful beings. How are you today? So in this video we were going to circle back to talk about when is an experience complete. What do you think? When would an experience be complete? Now, there's many facets to an experience when you think of it. Okay, so in my case, in my lifetime, I've actually been fortunate enough that I've been able to have both sides of an experience just in this one lifestyle, just in this one lifetime. So for example, in my childhood, I had my mum yelling at me. So I know, okay, what's the experience of someone yelling at you all the time, right? And then I had the experience of being the one that's yelling at someone else, right? A little one, you know, that when you look at it, you know, and you're this big being and you're yelling down at this little being. It's just the feeling of it. It's just so bad inside, you know, and that's what we're here for. That's the one thing I really wanted to point to in this video. What we're always looking at from the soul's purpose, from the soul's point of view, is the feeling of it energetically. How does that feel? These are the colors of your palette that you're painting with. How does it feel? An experience is complete when you've experienced every aspect and there's nothing left to extract from that experience. So an example might be, say, in this lifetime, now we're going to talk about all the different, so don't get, you know, my intention is never to trigger anyone. It's always to bring awareness to, yeah? So if you are triggered, you might want to sit with it because we talk about a lot of different topics. But for some reason, the cheating is coming up for this one. Maybe because that's what was happening with my grandfather and my grandmother. Maybe she already had another partner lined up, maybe she was having an affair is the word I'm looking for, you know? She was cheating on my grandfather and that's why he was so angry that he ended up killing her. But we're just looking at the cheating. We're going to stay with that experience. So in this lifetime, okay, you come in and you're the one that's cheating on your partner in this lifetime. Now, perhaps you cheat on them and in this same lifetime, they cheat on you. So you get the experience of what it feels like when they're having an affair with someone else, right? So you know what it feels like from your point of view if you're having an affair. Right? How does it make you feel that you have to be sneaking behind their back? You have to be lying to them to their face, right? That you're having an affair. You're with someone else, right? All the while you're with them. Now there's all the other part of the experience. Why? Why do I feel the need to be with this other person while I'm with this person? It always goes back to that movie Sliding Doors, you know? I could understand his conflict because the two women were so different in their personalities, you know, that I could see why you could love both at the same time and you'd want to be with both at the same time because they both make you feel a different way when you're with them. You know what I mean? So stay with it. So in this lifetime, you're the one that's cheating. So there's all of that going on. How does it feel when you lie to your partner because you're, you know, doing that? How does it feel when you're with the other person? You know, knowing that you've got this partner that maybe you're married to. Let's say you're married. Let's go with that experience. So you have, in my case, you'd have a husband, but you're with another man, right? Or flip it. If you're the man, you're listening to this video, you have a wife and you're, you know, like in Sliding Doors where he had a wife, but he was, you know, sleeping with another woman. So how does it feel? All of that. Your soul is taking in all that information. How does it feel to be the one doing the cheating, the lying, all that comes with that experience, right? But then maybe in the next lifetime you come in and you're the faithful one, you're the loyal one, you're the one that's always there, you're solid. But it's your partner that's always cheating on you. They're the ones always with other people. And they're the ones always lying to you. And there's that feeling that something's not quite right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's the other side of the experience. What does that feel like? But that's not just, each experience doesn't have just two sides. Because then, when you think about it, okay, there are the two main people of the experience, the husband and the wife. But what about the person that is having the affair? How do they feel? What are they feeling? What are they going through as the person that's outside this relationship? And what about if this person is always promising that person that they're going to leave this person to be with them? How does that feel? You know, when are you going to leave your partner to be with me? You keep promising, but nothing happens. So there's that aspect of that experience. Or what if you're the one having the affair, but you don't really want to be with them? You don't want them to leave their partner. You like the freedom of, oh, I can have sex with them whenever I want, but keep doing my own life. Maybe you came to have that experience. Then there's the experience of here's the husband and here's the wife, okay? And one of them is cheating on the other, and they've got children. And you came into this lifetime to be one of those children. To hear them fighting all the time because she knows there's something going on, and he's the one having the affair. But you're the child in the house listening to all this yelling going on all the time because something's not right. Now you're the child. That is your experience. So within each experience, there's different aspects. There's not just the being the wife or being the husband. There's the one that you're cheating with. There's the one that... There's the children. There's the parents. How would you feel as a parent when knowing, or you've got that gut feeling, you've got this beautiful being that you've brought into the world, your daughter, your son, and you know every time you see them with their partner, you know in your gut something's not right. That person is not being honest with your child. How does that feel? You see, there's so many different aspects of it. And that's just one topic, cheating. Then there's the topic of abuse. You know, I didn't quite get this concept until one day I was doing a soul retrieval. It was in, what were those things I was using? Hang on. Got it? There's been a few times I've gone in to do somatic breath work. And every time I do that, for some reason, I go into past lifetimes. And the first time I went in to do the soul retrieval, and this just blew my mind as to why I had this strong connection. I'm trying to remember how old I was when the movie Roots came out. And I just, after that, bombarded my dad with so many questions of why. I think I was about 7 or 8. I was only little, but I just couldn't understand. Why? Why were they treating them like that? Why were they doing that? Why? Right? All the way through. And it wasn't until I had this past lifetime regression that I understood, I understood my obsession with that movie because I spent months after. They didn't let me watch it again after that, my parents. They were like, they thought I was traumatized by it or too affected by it as a child. They realized after I watched it that it wasn't for children. But for me, it was something deeper than that. It was more than that. And I couldn't quite get to until I had my past lifetime regression. This was a few years ago now. But I remember going in and witnessing just lifetime after lifetime of being slaves, of being sold, of being taken away from just on ships, taken away from my land, ripped apart from my family, sold, lifetime after, and watching my family, my siblings, my parents, sold, my partner, different lifetimes I might have already been with a partner and I was sold, taken away to other countries, to other places and just treated like that. And what I could see in all those past lifetime regressions was always looking down at the ground, like so much shame, that I couldn't look up. And a yearning for freedom, which I've had from the very beginning in this lifetime. And I thought it had to do with my mum, that I just couldn't wait to leave home because I didn't feel I had any say at home. I had no freedom to choose anything. I had to always do what they wanted, you know? And so I thought it had to do with that until I had that past lifetime regression. And then, you know, I was like, oh my God, this has been going on for generations and generations and lifetimes. Right? This slavery. We've been going through this for lifetimes. And then I had this awareness, you know, in that moment, that this wanting to be free comes all the way back from there, you know, from those lifetimes of being slaves. But then, I think this was last year, then I understood. Okay, I understand the connection now with that movie. When they created that movie, I understand why for me it was so important that I understand all of it. Well, why? Why? You know, what was going on? Why? I felt such a deep connection to everything that was happening, you know. I think it was a series, more than a movie. I think it was a series. Like, it was broken up into, it was quite long from memory. I haven't rewatched it. I haven't felt the need to watch it again because I felt quite... for me, it was very intense at the time, that I don't think I could, whenever I start to watch anything like that, I can't watch it. And I just want to start crying before I even start the movie, you know, just knowing what it's about and what's going to happen, what's going to unfold, you know. But then it was last year, I did somatic breath work again. And for anyone that wants to try that, you know, for me, I do it about once a year because I find that it's so intense when I do it and so much comes up that it's enough for me once a year. Maybe you want to go in and do it more often, but I usually find once is enough. So last year I went in, and this was last year or the year before? I forget, because the years seem to all roll into each other now. There's just so much going on, you know, coming up. But the past lifetime regression this time, as I went in, and I was quite shocked, you know, because I didn't know where it was going. Sometimes it takes me different places. But this one was about me being the captor of the slaves, these lifetimes. And more than that were the ones that, you know, where the slaves are working and the beings that just keep them in place. Especially if they're on a field. I could see, I don't know why, so many times they were in a field and I had a whip or something in my hand to punish them with when they weren't working, you know. And I was well dressed and I had a hat and I was comfortable, even though they looked very uncomfortable, you know. And the lifetimes I was a slave, I always saw myself with the shackles, I think they're called, on my wrists, on my legs, like always chained, tied. But this time I was watching them being chained and tied and brought in, and then, you know, unchained, of course, because they have to do the work. But I was the bad guy in those lifetimes, you know, what we would consider the bad guy, the one that was doing the abuse is the word that's coming up, but that's not the right word. Hang on. Taking advantage of another for power, right? I also saw myself in many different places selling slaves. So then it was, you know, for me, it was a shock to the system. When I came out of that past lifetime regression, I had to really, like I said, for me, I'll do it once a year because there's so much that comes through that then it takes me a while to process everything. I was shocked, you know, because I thought, wait a minute, that can't be right. You know, it can't be right. I could understand coming in and being the slave, but not the bad one, not the bad person that takes them, that does all of that to them, that treats them that way, that, you know, I couldn't get my head around it. And it took weeks, it took months, you know, until I did the following somatic, like it stayed with me. Like I thought, no, you know, I couldn't, there's no way. And it wasn't until the following year that I did the somatic breath work. So I think that one was 2 years ago, because the following one I did, and that was shown to me again that I had done all of that as well as, you know, all the lifetimes of being the slave. What happened in that beautiful breath work was that I was there, and this time I'm being shown that I'm the captor. I'm the one that's taking the slaves, you know, from their country, and I'm putting them on ships and I'm selling them overseas. I got all these different roles in different lifetimes on the other side of the slavery, if you like. And then what happened was, in that moment, I saw myself as the captor walking towards myself in other lifetimes as the slave. So here's the two of them. Here's the captor and here's the slave. And then all the lifetimes, different lifetimes of being a slave and all the different roles I played, whether I was the mother, the partner, the child, whoever it was, all of those roles started walking towards the part that I'd been the slave. And then all the part where I'd been the captor, I'd been the one selling them, I'd been the one, you know, or even the one at the top, you know, demanding them to be, you know, go over there, get them, put them there, do all that. Higher roles even. All of those roles started to work towards this one that I had seen in this past lifetime regression. And there was a whole bunch, like so many. And they started to form a circle, you know, like the circle that went round, another circle, and another circle, another circle. And I, here, now, in this moment, as I was in this somatic breathwork, was standing in the middle of it all. And it was in that moment. And then what happened was the captor, the one that I saw with the slave that I saw, plus all the others, they all started to hug around, like hug. So these two were hugging each other over me in the middle. And then all the others started to hug and then hug and then hug. And there were circles outside of circles, outside of circles of all the roles that I had played towards that experience, that event. And that's when I understood, oh, that's what a complete experience looks like when you have played every single role possible for that experience, for what that feels like. I just get chills just thinking about it, you know. It's easy to think that you're the good guy, that you're the good, you know, you only want the good roles. But we're here for all of them. We're here for all of it. And we'll talk more about, because this is coming out a lot in the latest books, you know, in the last few books, but in the latest one and the ones to come after, there's just all this information about we're here for all of it. So this might make more sense when you listen to the next video. We love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And we'll see you soon. Bye for now.